Jungkook, while working on the laptop, took a minute to massage his neck and shoulders. He was too busy to take a break for himself and enjoy the coffee now that he has ordered one. He took a sip and began clicking on those buttons of the laptop. He chose a peaceful and a quiet place to work, but guess it wasn't his best choice, as two people outside the cafe started fighting on something, so his attention went towards them. I told you I don't want to talk to you. You had a nerve to come here and ask me that. So before I scream, you can go away from here. The girl, whose back was facing Jungkook, said to a man standing in front of her. Jungkook, you're already screaming, madam, aren't you? Jungkook said in a low voice, looking at them. He shook his head and tried to focus on his work again. On the other side, Vine, who was telling her ex-boyfriend to go away, but he didn't listen at all, because whenever he would need money, he came to her and she never said no to him. But now that Vine knows he was cheating on her and was only with her for money, she broke up with him, yet he didn't seem to care much. But now that he needs money again, he is trying to manipulate her that he was the victim and he still loves her. Please give me a chance. I will prove to you how much I love you. Ever since you left me, I can't explain how miserable I was, but never complained. I can't take it anymore. Please come back to me. Please come home. Vine, who almost fell for his talks again, looked at him with softened eyes, but she couldn't see any affection, for she scoffed. I can't believe it. Home, you're saying? I'm a fool that I'm even listening to you, she said and started walking away. For he came to her and held her wrist while saying, why can't you believe me? Don't you see how much I'm suffering? Come with me right now. Jungkook had enough of their talks. He couldn't focus anymore, so he angrily got up and went outside. For he said to them, couldn't you guys take it somewhere else? Jungkook sighed deeply. It's my fault for coming here. He was going to sit in his car that he heard the girl saying to him, wait, help me please. He stopped and looked around, only to see there was no one else at the moment who could help her. So he got angry again and looked at Ryan. He looked in those needing eyes, which almost teared up, and he couldn't help but go to save her. Jungkook came to her and held her hand, for he said, I need to talk to her for a moment. Let me take her. Jungkook said, but her boyfriend wasn't ready to leave her, as he tightened his grip on her. Jungkook held her boyfriend's wrist and twisted it behind his back until he groaned in pain. Jungkook threw him on his stomach and held Vine's hand, taking her towards his car. Both sat in it, for she looked at him and said, Jeon Jungkook. Jungkook, what is it, Vine? Wait, you remember me? Vine, Wait, you remember me? How? Jungkook, what do you mean how? It's just by seeing you. How can I not remember you? What about you? Ryan, your clumsy habits again, which are one of the reasons I hated you. Ryan laughed as she said that in a teasing way. They were both best friends in high school. Jungkook, you won't change, will you? And what are those habits again? Ryan, your creepy dialogues when you twisted his hand and then threw him on the ground. I immediately thought of you, as you used to do that daily, and I had to clean up your mess every time. Jungkook laughed as he forgot about his work that earlier gave him too much stress. Jungkook, and you would beat me every time after getting scolded by the teachers and your parents, which I loved watching. Jungkook, we had so much fun, but we came so far in lives, didn't we? Never knew I would grow up to be like this. His laughing expressions changing into sadness and grief as Ryan looked at him. Ryan put a hand on his hand and looked at him with affection, for she said, "Why, did you become a mafia like you always said you would be?" She laughed. Jungkook looked at her with anger and said, "Seriously? I thought you were actually feeling for me, but you can never be serious." Ryan, who can be serious while being with you, huh? Besides, why would I be feeling something for you when I can see this big car, that suit, and the imported laptop in your hand? Ryan, so how about a drink after all these days? Let's spend a day together. Jungkook didn't reply as he looked at his laptop, remembering that how much work he still has pending. But he still looked at her and nodded to her, for she smiled happily and he started driving. As there was too much traffic on the road, Jungkook decided to take a shortcut, going through the narrow and desert streets. Suddenly, they were surrounded by two cars, one at their front and one on the back. People came out of them with guns in their hands. Turns out they were following Jungkook for a while and waiting for a chance to find him alone, to kill him. Wine was startled as hell, but for Jungkook, it was normal. He immediately took out his guns and went outside the car. He dealt with them while having special attention towards Wine, for she doesn't get hurt. All this time, Wine had her hands on her ears, while shivering madly in fear, that she thought she died from the fear. As Jungkook came to sit in the car, she moved away, looking at his scary side, while all the blood on his hands and suit. He looked at her and sighed, looking downwards. He threw the gun on the back seat. She was frozen at her place while looking at him, as she hesitatingly said, "You're not really a mafia, are you?" Jungkook was about to speak something, but she didn't let him. She immediately started trying to open the door, which was locked. She said to him, all frightened, please let me go. I didn't see anything. Nothing at all. Please. She wasn't in her senses, but was sure that he is going to kill her. All he wanted was to calm her down. He put a hand on her shoulder, but she immediately threw it away, saying, please don't kill me. I beg you. Jungkook, Ryan, Ryan, please calm down. I'm not killing you, okay? Listen to me. Ryan looked at him and he said, I will drop you home, okay? Just calm down. Ryan, no, no. Please just let me go. Trust me. I won't do or say anything. Jungkook sighed deeply and putting his hand on the gear, he said, it's dangerous to get out of here alone. There might be some other people. No way I'm letting you go alone. He said and pushed the gear to start driving the car. She kept asking him to let her go, but as he didn't listen, she quietened down after a while. Jungkook, I'm not letting you leave until you tell me where you live, and I drop you myself. Jungkook, I know it sounds selfish, but I'm only doing it for you. Jungkook unlocked the door as soon as they reached her house. She immediately got out of it and went inside, making sure the door is fully locked, together with the windows. Jungkook stood on the outside of the door, while Vine sat leaning against the exit door. She calmed down a little, as she knew she was safe now. Jungkook slowly knocked on the door and said, you are safe now, right? You believe me now? I'm not trying to hurt you at all. I was so happy to see you again. I can't believe this is how it's turning out, he said and sat, leaning against the door. Jungkook, I definitely did not want to say it like this, but it's been 8 years. I don't think I can wait for another chance anymore. You remember, you used to tell me how every other friend of ours was busy in dating and things, but you always said you had a dream. You never had the time to get into these things at all. I could see the shine in your eyes when you talked about your dream. This is why Jungkook sobbed up together with the clouds as it started raining slowly. This is why I never told you about my feelings for you. I did it only for your sake, not knowing this is how it will turn out. You don't know how I felt when I saw you today. I thought maybe, just maybe, I have another chance to confess to you. Jungkook teared up as he said, I really don't want to say it like this, but I love you. He quietened down after saying this, but the rain got heavier and heavier. He hugged his knees and folded his arms to keep himself warm, but it was all for nothing. On the other hand, Ryan was crying after hearing him, as he didn't say anything and bore those 8 years just for her and her dream. But she can't just accept him like this. Yet she felt really bad for him. She was quiet for an hour until she saw that he was still sitting outside in that heavy rain and coldness. She screamed to him, "You're going to get sick. Go home. We'll talk tomorrow." Sick? Jungkook scoffed and said, "Who cares about that anymore? I don't want to run away anymore. Not anymore." After this much time, she was getting thirsty and hungry. She didn't want to eat while him sitting outside like this. She looked through the window and his condition was getting more miserable. He was coughing badly. She looked at him and immediately went to open the door. "Fine. Are you crazy or what? Just go away. But if you get some serious disease, you don't care one bit about yourself, do you?" She said in a row, without breaking the breath, without realizing what she did, until she saw Jungkook staring at her, all shocked. She took a breath and slowly said to him, "I'm going to eat. You can come if you want." She went away saying that, leaving Jungkook amazed, for he knew this wouldn't happen, but he still sat down there. He smiled a little and went inside. He was shivering and coughing constantly. She came outside for a second and saw him coughing badly. Her eyes widened, and she immediately took a blanket to put it on him. "Fine. Look at yourself, you idiot." As she was wrapping the blanket around him, she looked at him, whose gaze was constantly staring at her. She was so close to him that she was lost in his eyes for a moment. She got up after a while and went in the kitchen. "Fine. Why the hell do I keep acting up?" She came with the food after a while to the dining table, where she found Jungkook already sitting on one of the chairs. They ate the food together with the most least talk and most awkward talk of the time, considering that they used to be best friends once. "Jungkook, about what I said earlier, Wine, how will you go home in this heavy rain? You can sleep here if you want." "Jungkook, I have a car." "Fine, stay here." I mean, as it still hadn't stopped raining, the streets must be filled with water. It will be hard for you to leave. Trust me, I live here and I know the conditions. "Jungkook, okay, if you ask me to trust you, I will with my life." Vine's cheeks were red by now. "Jungkook, what do we do now?" As the time passed, the awkwardness only increased. Suddenly, Jungkook coughed again, but she stood up and said to him, "Go in the room and lie under the blanket right now, or I'm pushing you all the way there myself." Jungkook was surprised for a few seconds before going into the guest room, and Vine stayed beside him, gave him whatever he needed, and took extra care of him until he recovered. She didn't let him move an inch. As she was about to pass him the glass of water, it suddenly fell down. For Jungkook immediately said to her, I'll clean that up. She slapped on his arm in an instant and said, I told you not to move an inch until you recover.